Two men walk into the same coffee shop. One is wearing designer clothes, a luxury watch, and driving a brand new BMW. The other is wearing a faded t-shirt, old sneakers, and drives a 12-year-old Toyota. If you had to guess who's richer, you'd probably pick the wrong one. And that's not unusual. In fact, some of the wealthiest people you'll ever meet look almost completely ordinary. No designer logos, no luxury cars, no obvious signs of success. Which raises a strange question. If they can afford all of those things, why don't they buy them? Why would someone spend years building wealth, only to look like they haven't? The answer has almost nothing to do with being cheap, and everything to do with a concept I call the invisibility advantage, an advantage so powerful that it can quietly change the course of an entire life. To understand it, you only need to follow two people, Adam and Daniel. Both are 25 years old. Both earn $100,000 a year. Both get similar raises. Both have the same opportunities. And at first, their lives look almost identical. Then something changes. Adam decides his success should be visible. Not in an extreme way, just enough for people to notice. The nicer apartment, the newer car, the designer wardrobe, the upgraded lifestyle. Nothing outrageous. Just the things successful people are supposed to buy. Daniel makes a different decision. He keeps the boring car, lives below his means, invests the difference. And for a while, Adam looks like the winner. His life is more impressive. People notice him. Friends congratulate him. Strangers assume he's successful. Daniel barely gets a second glance. If you met both men at this point, you'd probably want Adam's life. Most people would. But here's the strange part. The people who become truly wealthy often stop caring about looking wealthy. Because they're making a calculation most people never even realize exists. Every dollar can do one of two things. It can buy attention, or it can buy freedom. And those two things are usually moving in opposite directions. Adam is buying attention, Daniel is quietly buying freedom. The difference sounds small, but over time it becomes enormous. Let's say Adam spends an extra $1,000 a month maintaining the image. Not just the car payment, the insurance, the upgrades, the lifestyle that comes with looking successful. Daniel invests that same $1,000 every month into a simple S&P 500 index fund. Nothing fancy, nothing exciting, just consistency. 30 years later, that $1,000 a month becomes over $2 million. Read that again. The difference between looking wealthy and building wealth can be worth millions. Adam didn't buy a luxury lifestyle. He spent over $2 million of future freedom. And most people never even realize they're making that trade. Because dealerships don't sell you future freedom. Luxury brands don't advertise future freedom. Nobody walks into a showroom and gets told, this car costs $70,000 today and another $2 million your future self never gets to keep. Instead, they sell the feeling, the image, the status. And Adam keeps buying. Not because he's irresponsible, because he's doing exactly what most people are taught to do. We've been told success should be visible. Something you wear, something you drive, something strangers should immediately recognize. But Daniel starts noticing something strange. The wealthiest people he meets don't seem interested in any of that. The millionaire wears plain t-shirts. The business owner drives an old Toyota. The investor worth millions lives in a house most people would never associate with wealth. It's almost like they're hiding. And in a way, they are. Not because they're ashamed of their success, because they've discovered something powerful. Looking rich has costs that never appear on the price tag. The moment people think you have money, they start treating you differently. The contractor's quote gets a little higher. The mechanic suddenly finds a few more problems. The salesman becomes very interested in showing you the premium package. And money isn't the only thing you're paying with. The more visible your wealth becomes, the more visible you become. Scammers know this. Fraudsters know this. Thieves know this. They're looking for signals. Luxury watches, designer brands, expensive cars, anything that suggests access to money. Every signal you send tells the world something about you. And not everyone receiving that signal has good intentions. That's one reason many wealthy people quietly avoid displaying what they have. Not because they're hiding, because they're protecting something more valuable than status. They're protecting options, and options change everything. The person living paycheck to paycheck in a luxury apartment has very little room to maneuver. They can't comfortably survive a financial emergency. They can't easily walk away from a bad job. They can't afford many mistakes. Their lifestyle is too expensive. Their image has become a monthly bill. But Daniel has something Adam doesn't. Breathing room. Imagine their boss asks them both to stay late on Friday. Adam needs every paycheck. Daniel could comfortably survive a year without one. Who has the real negotiating power? The answer isn't complicated. The person who needs the money less controls the conversation more. That's why wealthy people often obsess over freedom long before they obsess over luxury. Because freedom compounds too. A person with financial breathing room makes better decisions. They're less desperate, less emotional, less likely to say yes when they should say no. And that's where the invisibility advantage becomes something much bigger than money. It becomes psychological. Most people spend years trying to look successful, but eventually many wealthy people realize something almost embarrassing. The people they were trying to impress weren't paying attention in the first place. Think about the last expensive car you saw. You probably noticed it, maybe for 3 seconds. Then you went back to thinking about your own life. The same thing happens with expensive watches, designer clothes, luxury handbags. Most status symbols are purchased for an audience that barely exists. People spend thousands of dollars chasing moments of attention that last seconds. Meanwhile, the money they spent could have been buying decades of freedom. And years later, the gap between Adam and Daniel becomes impossible to ignore. Adam spent 30 years looking rich. Daniel spent 30 years getting rich. One bought an image, the other bought options. One spent years proving he was successful, the other spent years becoming successful. And that brings us back to the man in the faded t-shirt. Most people see him and assume he's missing out. They assume he can't afford the luxury car, the bigger house, the designer clothes. But what if they've got it backwards? What if the ability to buy those things and simply choose not to is actually one of the strongest signs of wealth there is? Because the ultimate flex isn't showing people what you can afford. It's no longer caring whether they know. The people who look richest often have the least freedom, and the people with the most freedom often look completely ordinary. The man in the coffee shop isn't trying to look poor. He simply stopped paying for attention. Because once you understand the invisibility advantage, you realize wealth was never about being noticed. It was about having options. And when that finally clicks, the invisibility advantage stops being a strategy. It becomes a superpower.